Good afternoon and welcome once again to Wave Your Grades, coming to you live on KUAW.org, emanating from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center right here in Kansas City, Missouri, where the founder and president and serving us as engineer and producer, Louis George Walker, is on the premises and allowing us this technology to Zoom. As a matter of fact, for a few months now, in light of the pandemic, praying that all is well with you and yours, and that we are being as wise and intelligent as Mr. Lewis as we observe protocol, distance, masks, electronic communications, all of those things that lend towards proper physical and mental health. My name is Carl Boyd. I'm your host every Saturday on KUAW.org for the program Wave Your Grades, American Students Striving for Excellence in honor of our troops. And this day, we have some very special guests. And as a matter of fact, the first supporter of the Stutes for Boots program was then Commander Gerald Caldwell of VFW Post 8100, and as a matter of fact, had my not 2014 book signing,
right? Yes.
At the VFW Post Hall. So I
Yes.
thank Gerald Caldwell for that continued loyal support and welcome you now to today's program, Mr. Gerald Caldwell, who will introduce us to Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson. Gerald Caldwell, thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. We appreciate the eloquent introduction that you gave. But we're just glad to be here. We're glad to work with your program, the Stutes for Boots. We were very glad to have your book signing and the very distinguished guests that you had out there. Which of some of those guests I took pictures with, I wouldn't have been able to catch up with if I hadn't been at your book signing.
Well, that's kind of you and it was kind of them. So thank you for saying so. Please go ahead.
Okay. And we have now as our first Black officer from VFW Post 8100, and one officer, Ben Anderson. He come to us from, he was living out in California, but he's originally here from Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And he's a retiree from the United States Navy. And I'm from the Navy too, so we're kind of buddies there. So we looking to hear from him today and some of his experiences that he has experienced over the years there with the United States Navy.
Now, as you prepare to introduce us to him, let me make sure that I am doing this correctly, because it is one thing to say former Commander Gerald Caldwell, but as it relates to current nomenclature and making sure that I have it properly addressed, what is the proper way to introduce Gerald Caldwell? Hey. I don't know if that's was that a phone coming on or a theme?
Yes, we got it silenced now.
Oh, okay. Proper way to introduce Gerald Caldwell in April 2021.
Excuse me, Mr. Boyd?
Yes, I was saying that I talked about the fact that you were former commander of VFW Post 8100, but what is the proper way to introduce Gerald Caldwell April 2021?
I am the past commander of VFW Post 8100. That's correct.
Outstanding. And please introduce us to and allow to join the conversation Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson.
Would you like for Mr. Anderson to come on out? You want me to introduce him just now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Anderson comes to us from a retiree from the United States Navy. and he started out as an enlisted man, and he went on up into the officers' rank. And from VFW Post 8100, he is the first Black officer that we have there at that post, and we are thrilled to have him there. Very fine man, very hardworking man, and we could use more of that. But his experiences and things, I haven't heard anything like it, so I'm just as looking forward to this interview as the people that are listening today. So it should be interesting, and we introduce you now to Warrant Officer Ben Anderson from VFW Post 8100.
Thank you, Past Commander Gerald Caldwell and Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Please tell us a few things about your background.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to participate in your program. And I guess I could start with when I joined the Navy, I joined as an E2, which is the lowest ranking enlistee that you can have. And I joined in 1965 with the idea of serving my country and going over and participating in the Vietnam skirmish over there. But as an enlistee, I didn't have too many options where to go, so they sent me out to a ship in the Mediterranean. But to get there, I guess I should start with how I got. Yes.
Yes. Yes, I can if I find out how to do it. Yes, I've got it. You give me good instructions. I've got
There it is.
Where's my note? Okay, I guess we go back to when I joined in '65 and as an enlistee, E2, and after completing boot camp, they sent me to a school. I think in most cases I was the only Black in my school, in my classes, and there was other Blacks in the other classes around me, which supported me in a sense of making me feel like I was at home, having some faces. Well, after completing a 6-month A school, they came through and asked if there was anyone that wanted to volunteer for advanced training. And I threw my hand up in the air and became scheduled to go to a second phase A school. And from there to a gun class, a heavy war class gun class. After about halfway through the second phase of my A school, they came through and they said they needed some volunteers for weapons, missile weapons training. And it was, the classes was held in California, which was a little warmer than the Great Lakes. So after spending a couple of months up there in sub-zero weather, I decided to volunteer to go to California.
Absolutely.
So I got to get back out to California and completed a approximately 6-month fire control radar school. And again, I was the only Black in my class. And we did have some Black chiefs, chief officers. I mean, chief petty officers, and they kind of supported me too, and it helped me through the class. I went aboard ship, the Little Rock, USS Little Rock, stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And I started working as a third class after I got out there, after completing that missile radar training class. And I spent 2 years on the Little Rock. And it was a very educational period of time. Again, we had 77 members in our division, and out of 77, I was only black faced except for a human, and I seldom ever saw him, and I found out that not all the faces that I ran into was friendly.
Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that you no doubt make me mindful of is when you say 1965.
Yes.
I failed to make this disclaimer, and I need to at the beginning of every program. I am a civilian. My oldest brother was a Marine. Next to him was an airman, and the one next to me was a soldier. Now, you will be familiar with this, and there are young people who are with us who don't quite know the language, but I was classified 4F. And the reason I was classified 4F was because I was a school teacher, and that was considered a critical occupation. Otherwise, I would have been classified 1A. Before you joined the Navy, in your career aspirations or what you were already doing, was your intent to join the service, or was that something that came to you unexpectedly?
Well, I had friends around me that I was getting drafted, and some of them was younger than me, which surprised me. So I got to thinking, well, maybe I ought to think about joining up before I get drafted. And the first thing that popped in my mind is, what will I do after I get out of the Army or Marine Corps? And I couldn't come up with anything other than police or fireman or some other service where I was still. I didn't think I'd be as educated if I went that route. So basically, after working for the railroad for a few months and seeing how the individuals was being promoted and how much money they was making and everything, I decided being a worker for the railroad paid good, but there wasn't too much upward mobility. And so that's one of the reasons why I joined the Navy, because I wanted to learn a little bit about electronics. Well, actually, I wanted to learn a lot about electronics so I could start making some of the money that some of the individuals I ran into in my civilian life had been able to take advantage of. But I found that there wasn't too many of my relatives that stayed in the Army or Navy or Air Force. So I would be probably about the second or third that would go into the Navy. And after getting into the rate that I was in, I found some people that basically was willing to work with me and help me move along for advancement. And as I said, I wasn't in a group of people that was had a large black population. We didn't become technicians and such until 1954 in the Navy. Most of us that joined the Navy back before those times were either stewards or cooks. So for me to be advanced to a fire control technician and working on missile radars, I was quite pleased and willing to learn. And I found that being a little flexible with the way things was going on around me, I was able to get trained by some of the guys from some of the cities that I thought was, or states that I thought was very prejudiced. I worked several months under a guy from Georgia, several guys from Alabama, in North Carolina, South Carolina. And they were very helpful. And one in particular was very helpful in further my education as a fire control technician.
Wow.
And one day he called me up and he says, "Hey, man, we got a part of our system now. You want to come up and work with me?" And I said, "Sure." And from that day on, every time everybody else was knocking off, he was calling me to give him a hand fixing something. One day I was I think still a third class, an E4. And one day I says, "Why are you always calling me? Why don't you asking these other guys to give you a hand?" He said, "First of all, you show interest in learning. And second, I want to make first class." And I says, how my helping you going to help you make first class? He says, "Well, I'm going to teach you as much as I know. And if I can do that, that'll free me up so that you can work on the systems by yourself
There you go.
and allow me time to study and prepare for my promotion to first class."
Well, let me indicate to you that when you talked about climate as it relates to geography and mentioned the Great Lakes, I spent my first 38 years in Chicago, Illinois, so that is home for me. So I understand what you mean as far as that climate is concerned.
Yeah.
But now another kind of climate. This was in the 60s. This was during a civil rights movement. Those who were civilians, such as I, thought we had something of a handle on the climate stateside. But can you help us to have a feel for the climate that you faced on the inside?
Well, as a sailor, I found that the effort that the Navy was putting forth to get equality throughout the branches, throughout the ranks, was very phenomenal. I mean, they made sure that that if you had problems and you thought it was a racial issue, that you could go to certain individuals in your command and discuss these things. And in most cases, it was a lot of the people that was, I guess, responsible for some of the tension in the ranks was pulled aside and addressed and sent through special training to get the understanding that everybody in the service is equal, and they ought to be treated equal. And so that was very, it was great for me because basically I found out that as long as I wanted to learn and take tests and stuff like that, I could be promoted. No matter what, no matter what my color was, I could be promoted because of my achievements, my grades, my study habits and such.
Let me remind those who are looking and listening that you are hearing the voice of Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson. This program is co-produced by VFW Post 8100, represented by Past Commander Gerald Caldwell, who is also with us. And I would certainly want Brother Caldwell to join in at any time to ask questions and or make comments. My name is Carl Boyd. The program is Wave Your Grades, American Students Striving for Excellence in Honor of Our Troops. And we have distinguished veterans with us this afternoon. Back to Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson, you talked about the 1960s. Please tell us how long your career in the military active duty lasted.
Well, I stayed in for 27 years.
Wow.
Excuse me?
You might not, I might not have articulated it quite right. So let me try it again.
Okay.
The word was wow. And when I think in terms of a career such as yours, and the way you were telling us it evolved, something would come up, you would see it as an opportunity, seize upon that opportunity. Something would come up, you would see it as an opportunity and seized upon it. But when you first joined, did you see 27 years down the road?
I saw 20.
Okay, okay.
I went in with the attitude that I looked around, like I said, I looked around my family members, and I found that it was only 3 of us that was either reservists or active duty. I had 2 cousins that was senior to me by quite a few years, about the age of my father almost, and they were. One was in the Navy, and the other, his brother was in the Army. And I started communicating with the cousin that was in the Navy, and he didn't really encourage me to stay in. But the fact is, I looked, like I say, I didn't see anyone else in our family pursuing a military career. But I talked to a few other individuals that I ran into in Bowling and different places that were retirees from the military, and they were, I guess, making a pretty good living. They had a retirement from the military, and they was working for good companies. And I got to thinking, I says that would probably be a good way for me to take and go, is to put my 20 years in, so I have a guaranteed retirement. And second, I could learn enough where I possibly could go to work for myself. But after the 27 years in the Navy being a fire control technician, a few things changed. They told us to keep our hands out of the equipment. And when something break, go unplug it and send it into the factory. So I figured, well, if that's the case, I should learn as much as I can, so that when I get out, I'll be ready to take and step right in and get a job.
Well, one of the things that you apprised us of was the experiences that you had different states. Did you spend any time outside of the United States?
Oh, yes, quite a bit. The first 2 years that I was aboard the ship, we went to the Mediterranean. I was stationed in Italy for 2 years. And that was a real learning experience. Meeting other people from other countries, trying to learn their language, and basically finding out that they had more respect for me than I had for myself, in a sense, because I'd always been, here in the States, and basically in many cases treated like a second-class citizen.
Wow.
And when I got over there, I was basically well received.
Yes. One of the things that I had the pleasure of doing was performing with a singing group from Chicago for USO shows. So it wasn't until 1971 that we performed in Vietnam, but we were allowed to perform in Tokyo, Okinawa, Guam, the Philippines, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand. They also allowed us to travel with a GS-14. And we did find a great deal of respect from foreigners. But you mentioned Italy. How about some of your other destinations?
Some of the places I went to was Greece, Spain, France. Now, France, it was a little different.
Uh-oh.
I didn't get a lot of help when I was trying to speak their language. But everywhere else, the people tried, if I tried to, learn their language, which wasn't very easy because we would only be in port a few days,
Right.
But if I started to, whereas in Italy, I was stationed out of Italy, our ship was home ported out of Italy. And so basically I had more time in Italy, and I really enjoyed trying to learn Italian because I'd had a couple of years of Spanish when I was in high school. And a lot of the words were the same, and the structure of sentences was the same. So I really enjoyed trying to learn, and the fact that I had Spanish, I can understand more than I could speak. So my 2 years over there in Italy was great. The other places I went, like Greece and France and Turkey and during the Mediterranean, uh, the people that I spoke to most times I spoke to them in Spanish
Mhm.
and broken Italian the best I could, and that's the way I got around. And my attitude when I first went in was that I should be not the ugly American, but an example of how the American people work and act. And I think that humbleness was recognized, and that's the reason I was able to get accepted in many of the countries I was in.
Outstanding. And I would like to see if Brother Gerald Caldwell is still with us, and ask him to help me to properly frame the question, and or while waiting for his return. Oh, here he is. Brother Caldwell, I'm going to ask you to unmute in a moment. When you were introducing us to Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson, there was some emphasis you placed on his being the first officer, and you were talking about the significance of his being a warrant officer. I would love for both of you to speak to that and how that has significance.
Yes. Now, him being the warrant officer, we saw, of course, I didn't see any black warrant officers. I was a Navy Seabee. I didn't see any of them. There were some warrant officers there, but there was not any black warrant officers there. So we didn't get a chance to be around them that much. But since he's been here at our VFW post 8100, we are really astounded and surprised at the work ethics that he has.
Let me interrupt you for just a moment. And Louis George Walker, Louis George Walker, when you do robotics, it's a competition where young people are involved. So now I want to do a competition between past Commander Gerald Caldwell and Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson on the mute button. Yeah, so we'll see how how adept we are at
Mute yours. It'll come up. There it is there. Hit the left button.
right. That's it.
Thank you. We were, like I was saying, the work ethics that he has, we could see that the Navy has required it, or he already had it when he got there. The ethics that he has, he works real hard and diligent at whatever he does. Right now, he's our quartermaster, and our quartermaster in the VFW post controls the money, About controls a lot of other things there too. All of the the other bills and things we get in there, he controls that too. So we are very pleased to have him as our quartermaster, because otherwise we would have might be on the verge of closing the door if we hadn't had anybody in that one that money part of it like it should be run. And he's doing that part, and he's learning that part of it and doing an excellent job at that. So we can appreciate that. We can appreciate the ethics that the Navy has given him. He's carried that over in civilian life, and man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, we are thanking you so very much for bringing him to us. We're going to ask Benjamin Anderson now to unmute, and the question that I have for you, in as much as when you started, there were so many places where you were the only Black person in that class, or the only Black person who is in a particular venue. All right. And that would mean to me that many who were under your command were not Black. So that as an officer, what challenges did you face to carry out your responsibilities?
Well, some of the challenges I faced was when I was commissioned, I was placed on an ammunition ship. And the first challenge was I'd never been a bullet counter or weapons counter of any sort. I just maintained the radar that I worked on and taught taught the guys around me, either on board ship or at the school command. So when I got aboard ship, I found out that I had to keep track of every bullet, every missile, every torpedo, every ASROC that we had and that we fired, and report those back to my superiors. When I getting on a ship and not having a whole lot of knowledge meant that I had to learn a lot. They sent me to school for missile training and such, missile handling training, but they didn't send me to school to count bullets and get to learn the normal nature of the weapons and what bullets I'm going to be transferring back and forth. So my day ran from quite often from 5 o'clock in the morning up to about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Especially when we had to take and transfer ammunition, because I had to get the report together and get it sent out as quick as possible so to keep on top of what our ship was actually doing. The guy I relieved for that had been doing that job for several years. He was not Black, and I kind of got the impression that he really didn't want to see me succeed. So he left a few pointers for my crew that how to take and make sure that my life wasn't going to be easy.
Oh no.
And he also, with him being a guy, being acquainted with the captain, he also discussed this with the captain, that to basically encourage the captain to be very observant of what I did. And it worked out to my benefit, because basically I became a little more concerned about what these young men was doing around me. And eventually I realized that if no one else cared, I had to make sure that everything went correct. All accounts had to be correct. And there was many nights where we had to count things as many as 3 times to come up with the correct answer. The amount of ammunition I was receiving. Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson could have been instrumental in helping us to count votes in the last election. Very meticulous, as it were. But one of the things that I am certainly interested in is your service in veterans of foreign wars. So let me set up the question this way. Past Commander Gerald Caldwell has been very kind to come on with me several times, and he can tell you as well as I that oftentimes we are overcoming the um, picture of VFW as being old white men with cigars playing bingo. Now, to Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson, I would love for you to help younger, past, well, those who are active and getting ready to retire, service personnel about the importance of the veterans of foreign wars.
I think that's one of our major problems. Currently, we can't overemphasize how important it is for young active military types to come into our organization. Many of them don't realize how they get their raises, their pay raises, how to get their different types of accommodations uh, as they process through the ranks and after they retire. They think that basically the check they're receiving is all they have to be concerned with. Well, the Veterans of Foreign Wars is the biggest organization that actually gets up and speaks out to the elected, your House of Representatives and your senators and such. We actually have a group that goes up and talks to those guys about how our medical care is working in and what we need to do to increase and to improve our medical coverage. And that's the reason why you hear quite a bit about the VFW or the VA doing more and more for the retirees and also helping the active duty men cope with their deficiencies of mental health, physical health, and that's pretty much caused by the military groups like the VFW, the Fleet Reserves, and American Legion. All of these organizations is basically service connected, and they're basically community service individuals that make sure that we keep the best for our military people. If you notice that many of our electeds have no background in military, so they don't know the hardships that individuals have when they have families and they're deployed. What they're these avenues a lot of times is neglected and leave the families out there to fend for themselves. But I think with our help as service groups, the VFW in particular, and Fleet Reserve, the Fleet Reserve, and some of the other groups, make sure that their families are taken care of. One of the things you'll find, I don't know whether you know it or not, but most of the organizations, most of the Navy organizations that I know of, emphasize taking care of your other military people, like the other Navy people, help their families while you're deployed.
Oh,
yeah, and when I first got in and got married, we happened to have a couple of people that had retired from the Navy living in the area that we lived in a little housing complex. They babysitted my kids. They made sure that when my wife had a problem with the car, they made sure that she was able to get it fixed and take us to someone that could fix it. We have what we call ombudsman. These ombudsmen, they basically are.
now one of the things,
the names of the call and check and see how they're doing, or if they have a problem, their name is given to the wives or the dependents to contact them, the wives that's there, so they can get some assistance. My wife was an ombudsman for several years, and basically when we was in Hawaii, and we had guys whose wives couldn't drive or didn't have cars, and my wife would go get them, take them to the commissary and help them get groceries, take them to the hospitals and clinics for treatment. And this was passed on to my captain there in Hawaii, and quite often he'd call me up and congratulate me for or tell me to pass on to my wife. Thank you for the work that she was doing to make sure the families was well taken care of.
Well, let me say to you that I was in high school 1955 until 1959. So when I was in the Reserved Officers Training Corps, or ROTC, it was 100% male. Now, of course, if you go to a high school, JROTC is mixed. Now, when I think about Veterans of Foreign Wars, a VFW post, again, going back to the stereotype, Brother Caldwell, and old men with cigars, what has been lately, and I will ask both of you the question, the role of both males and females in VFW posts? And I think Brother Caldwell is
Okay.
on. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And you mute your, you shake it till it comes up. And mute it, mute it.
There you
Yes.
go.
Now, as we go along and we have more women that veterans that are in the military, we have really a change in duties as far as the VFW is concerned and the other organizations. Right now, we have a lady veteran who will be our next commander at the VFW 8100. And we are very pleased to have her. She's an Army veteran.
Will that be the first?
Yes, will be the first in 100 years. First lady in 100 years. And we look forward to really helping her and getting with her and try to make sure that she be a good success for us.
Now, one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is to alert those who are with us to how they might contact you if they are interested in joining or supporting VFW Post 8100. Will you please offer contact information at this time?
Okay, I think that our major effort for us right now is to make sure that she's attending the proper meetings and such that so she keeps up abreast of what's going on. Quite often, once we become commanders and such, we're so busy trying to worry about our communities that we forget about keeping in touch with our districts and our national offices and such. And if we can keep her, that's going to be, in my case, that's going to, I mean, in our post, that's going to be one of my jobs as the quartermaster, try to keep all the reports going in as often as possible that is required, and letting everyone know what we're doing in our posts, so they can also see that we're active in the communities and also trying to help our young people in their schooling and such.
Yes. Now, if there is a veteran with us who would like to contact you to join, how do they go about that?
Okay, we have a website that they can address, and they don't have to be an active member of the VFW or anything. They can go online and call up just vfw.org, and then they have the opportunity to locate a post in their area and possibly meet with them and see if they're comfortable with that post, and then go ahead and join. There's a fee for joining, an annual fee, unless you want to become a life member. And as a life member, basically you pay a greater fee than your annual fee, because what you're doing is you're signing up for life. So that's the easiest, the best way to go is to go for life, but that way you don't have to worry about your yearly payments, and it's just done, it's over. And then it's left up to you to make the meetings. We have a few people that join, and if I think if they find a bunch of cigar smokers and and none that has the same nationality they have, they may get a little disgusted, but the bottom line is that we're all working together now. We're all trying to work together, and most cases you're going to get help from the veterans that's going on before you. And all you have to do is just show up in the meetings and ask questions, and basically that's the easiest way of learning and finding out what you can do to participate and help your community. And I think we really need more of us participating in our community. And with us, you being involved with the service groups like ours, you meet more people, you learn more needs, you learn how to take and approach these needs with the help from veterans that's trying to help their community.
Now, one of the things that Past Commander Gerald Caldwell has done this afternoon in introducing us to Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson is to help us to appreciate the role that one has to play to approve community service projects. So I get an opportunity at a personal as well as organizational level to say thank you again for things that you do in the community. And you are teaching us today that this will not happen if you don't go through Warrant Officer Benjamin Anderson. And either or both of you, would you just help our listeners appreciate some of the community service projects? I'll give you an example. When I was doing a series of posters that were done at De La Salle High School, CFW Post 8100 actually presented funding to help our relationship with those students. What kinds of things are you doing now in that regard?
Well, some of those things we hope to continue doing, and as you have talked to us off the record, that you're hoping to come in with some more seminars, which is community based, and our district commander just loves it when the community can come in and use our facility, and we are happy because it gives us ports. It gives us an edge up so that we can, all of us can go and get a white cap. The commander and the quartermaster can get a white cap, and that puts us up above some of the other posts that are in our district. So we're excited about it. We're excited about the content of the seminars that you have. Very good content, and that's very needed in our community. And we're just pleased to have that, and as well as our other POW ceremonies that we have out there. We normally have a helicopter comes and out there, and it attracts a lot of children and people. It sits out there, and we'll get more questions, more answers, more donations too. When people come and see that, and where that helicopter's been, we really appreciate that. Those community, well, we have Boy Scouts. They help burn our flags. we don't call them burn flags. We say retire the flag.
Yes.
So we have the Boy Scouts come do that. We just pleased because they get some kind of a badge or honor badge for